Autumn in Boston arrived earlier than expected. Caroline Brown gazed at the falling dried leaves through the kitchen window, with her morning coffee in hand. Wearing a subdued brown cardigan, she pulled her hair back and called toward the living room. "Noah, are you ready? It's time to go to Grandma's house." 8-year-old Noah looked up from the dinosaur encyclopedia spread out on the floor. His blue eyes were identical to his mother's, but his black curly hair reminded her of her ex-husband Thomas. "Just a minute. Can I take this book with me?" Caroline smiled. "Of course. But you'll read it in the car. We're going to celebrate Grandma's birthday, so once we arrive, you'll need to put the book away." Noah nodded obediently and began packing the book into his backpack with practiced hands. Since the divorce 3 years ago, Caroline had been living alone with Noah in this apartment. She maintained an amicable relationship with her ex-husband Thomas, and Noah regularly spent weekends at his father's house. Her cell phone rang, and the screen displayed the word "Mother." "Good morning, Mom," Caroline answered. "Caroline, are you ready? Everyone's looking forward to seeing you." Helen Morris's voice was as vibrant as ever. Even after becoming a wealthy widow 5 years ago, her life remained busy with social events and charity activities. "We're just about to leave." Noah's excited too. "Wonderful. Rebecca and Michael have already arrived. They're preparing breakfast for you." Caroline smiled with a hint of bitterness. Her sister Rebecca had always been skilled at capturing their mother's attention since childhood. "Thank you, Mom. We'll be there within an hour." After hanging up, Caroline took a deep breath. Amid her busy days working as an editor at a publishing company, family gatherings always brought mixed emotions. Her relationship with her sister Rebecca in particular still carried the competitive spirit from their childhood. "Mom, is Aunt Rebecca coming too?" Noah suddenly asked. He sometimes showed remarkable perception that even adults missed. "Yes, she's already there." "Why do you ask?" Noah shrugged. "Just wondering. Aunt Rebecca has been acting strange lately." Caroline was momentarily surprised by her son's comment but dismissed it as a child's intuition. "Everyone's busy. Your aunt has a demanding IT job, and Uncle Michael mentioned he has a new project, remember?" "Yes." Noah's expression still showed doubt, but he said nothing more. Before leaving the apartment, Caroline checked a message from her ex-husband on her phone. "I remember today is your mother's birthday. Give her my regards. Is tomorrow afternoon okay to pick up Noah?" She replied briefly. Her relationship with Thomas was more peaceful than many divorced couples. He was successful as a financial consultant, but his tendency to prioritize work over family hadn't changed. That was ultimately what had driven them apart. Caroline and Noah got into the car and headed toward the upscale residential area in Boston's suburbs. After her husband's death, Helen had moved from a large house to a luxury condominium. Today, the whole family was gathering to celebrate her birthday. "Mom, what are you giving Grandma?" Noah asked as he fastened his seatbelt. "An album we made together. I included all the photos from last year." Caroline smiled at Noah from the driver's seat to the back seat. "I also included your drawings." Noah smiled proudly. He had artistic talent, which Caroline always encouraged. As the car entered the highway, Caroline's thoughts turned to her sister again. Rebecca had been married to Michael, an IT engineer, for 5 years, but they still had no children. The couple led a career-focused life and occasionally posted photos of lavish vacations on social media, drawing envy from friends, including Caroline. However, lately, something seemed off. Last week, when her mother mentioned, "Rebecca has been visiting me quite often," Caroline felt something was strange. Rebecca typically wasn't good at making time for her mother. And yesterday, when Thomas told her, "I've been working with Michael on a new project, but something seems off about him," it caught her attention. Thomas had good judgment about people. Caroline shook her head to dismiss these thoughts. Today was her mother's special day. She shouldn't be distracted by minor family tensions. We're at Grandma's house. Noah pointed outside the window. The luxury condominium Riverside Towers came into view. Caroline parked the car in the parking lot and picked up the bag containing the present. Let's go, she extended her hand to Noah. Let's surprise Grandma. After parking in the condominium's garage, Caroline noticed her phone ringing. Looking at the screen, she saw it was from her ex-husband Thomas. Mom, can I go in first? Noah asked impatiently. Caroline hesitated momentarily but decided the lobby would be safe. All right. But don't leave the lobby. I'll be right there. As she watched Noah run toward the building, she answered the phone. Thomas, what is it? Caroline, there's something I need to tell you. Thomas's voice had an unusual tension. It's about Michael. I've been working with him on a new company project recently. Yes, I heard. And? He's acting strange. Either he's under extreme stress or hiding something. Plus, I had an opportunity to look into his and Rebecca's company finances. Thomas paused as if choosing his words carefully. They seemed to be carrying substantial debt. Caroline stopped in her tracks, surprised. What are you saying? Rebecca and Michael are always talking about luxurious vacations and new cars. It might be all for show. Anyway, you should be cautious. Especially around Helen. Thomas's voice was serious. Helen still manages her assets herself, right? Yes, Mom's mind is still sharp. Caroline leaned against the car door. But why would you think? Just intuition. I hope it's nothing. Just keep an eye on Noah today. After hanging up, Caroline remained motionless for a while. She knew Thomas wasn't the type to harbor unfounded suspicions. His intuition as a financial analyst was almost always correct. Taking a deep breath, she picked up the bag containing the present and headed toward the building. In the lobby, Noah was staring intently at something in front of a large potted plant. Noah, what are you looking at? He turned around with a puzzled expression. Yesterday when I came here, Aunt Rebecca was doing something weird. Caroline frowned. Yesterday? You came here? Yes. With Dad. He said he wanted to talk to Uncle Michael, Noah answered matter-of-factly. I waited in the lobby. Aunt Rebecca came and was messing with something over there. He pointed toward the elevator. She was doing something to it. Caroline tried to understand her son's words. Thomas hadn't mentioned bringing Noah here. And Rebecca was messing with something. What do you mean by messing with? Noah shrugged. I don't know. But she had some kind of tool. When she noticed I was watching, she looked really surprised. The elevator doors opened, and Rebecca appeared. She was dressed stylishly as usual, with perfect makeup, but there were signs of fatigue under her eyes. Caroline. Noah. She greeted them cheerfully, but her smile seemed forced. Everyone's waiting. Especially you, Noah. Grandma is really looking forward to seeing you. Caroline gave Rebecca a light hug. Sorry we're late. Thomas called. Thomas. Rebecca's voice rose slightly. Did he say anything? Nothing special. Just confirming when to pick up Noah, Caroline lied. Her sister's reaction troubled her. As they entered the elevator, Rebecca began talking rapidly. Mom's been really energetic lately. But yesterday, she said something strange. Strange? She said she's revised her will. Seems like she's made some big decision. Rebecca studied Caroline's face closely. Do you know anything about it? Caroline shook her head. I haven't heard anything. I see. Rebecca's voice sounded disappointed. Maybe it's my imagination, but Mom seems cold toward me lately. Did she say anything to you? Nothing, Caroline answered curtly. Noah squeezed her hand tightly. When the elevator reached Helen's floor, Michael was waiting in the hallway. The usually mild-mannered man's expression was tense and rigid today. Hello, Caroline, Noah, he greeted them formally but avoided eye contact. He seemed to be particularly avoiding looking at Noah. Michael, how are you? Caroline asked, and he forced a smile. Fine, just busy. Work's been hectic. Noah avoided going near Michael, hiding behind Caroline. The atmosphere between Rebecca and Michael also felt oddly cold. Had something happened between the couple? Upon entering Helen's apartment, they were greeted by festive decorations. Happy birthday, Mom, Caroline hugged her mother. Thank you, Caroline, Helen gently stroked her daughter's back. Noah, will you give Grandma a kiss? Noah happily ran to his grandmother and kissed her cheek. Helen whispered in Caroline's ear, I need to talk to you later. During the meal, conversation flowed pleasantly on the surface, but Caroline could sense the tension among everyone. Rebecca and Michael, in particular, barely spoke to each other. When dessert time came and Helen went to the kitchen, Caroline offered to help. Once they were alone, Helen lowered her voice. Caroline, there's something I need to tell you. Thomas called me, Caroline said preemptively. About Michael and Rebecca's financial situation. Helen's eyes widened in surprise. So you knew? Yes, they're drowning in debt. Rebecca came to me last week asking for substantial financial help. Mom, what are you going to do? I refused, Helen's voice was firm with determination. I can't enable their wasteful habits. That's why I've changed my will. I'm setting up a trust for you and Noah. Caroline gasped. Mom, did you tell Rebecca? Not yet. I was planning to talk to her after the party today, Helen sighed. But she seems to suspect something. She's been strangely attentive to me lately. Their conversation was interrupted by the sound of Michael and Rebecca arguing in the living room. You promised. I want out of this. Caroline and Helen exchanged glances, and then a sudden silence fell. When they returned to the living room, Rebecca was smiling as if nothing had happened, while Michael stared out the window. Only Noah was looking at Caroline with anxious eyes. On the surface, the party proceeded pleasantly, with Helen blowing out the candles on her birthday cake to celebrate her 70th milestone. However, Caroline could acutely feel the tension permeating the living room. There was an icy atmosphere, particularly between Rebecca and Michael. Thank you all for the gifts, Helen sat on the sofa, surrounded by open presents. Especially Noah's drawing, it's wonderful. You truly have talent. Noah smiled sheepishly, but his eyes showed concern. He had kept his distance from Michael throughout, making sure to stay on the opposite side of the room. It's already 5 o'clock, Caroline looked at the twilight spreading outside the window. We should be heading home. It's a school night, and Noah needs to get to bed early. Already? Rebecca suddenly raised her voice. It's still early. It's Mom's birthday. True, Helen said gently. But I understand, considering Noah. Michael stood up and loosened his tie. I should be going too. I have an early start tomorrow. Rebecca's face flushed with anger. Michael. What? He responded coldly. I told you I need to leave. A heavy silence dominated the room. Caroline took her son's hand and stood up. Mom, thank you for the lovely time. I'll come visit again next week. Helen kissed Caroline's cheek and whispered in her ear, be careful. Something's not right. I know, Caroline whispered back. I'm going down first, Michael abruptly announced and left the room. They could faintly hear his footsteps receding down the hallway and the elevator door opening. As Caroline and Noah headed toward the entrance, Rebecca hurriedly followed them. Her expression was distraught, though she tried desperately to appear calm. "Caroline, wait," Rebecca grabbed her sister's arm. "Did Mom say anything about us?" Caroline gently pulled her arm away. "Nothing. Is something wrong?" "No, nothing's wrong," Rebecca answered hastily. "It's just, Mom's been acting strange lately. She's been cold toward me." "Rebecca," Caroline looked at her sister with serious eyes. "Is there something going on between you and Michael? If you're having problems, you can talk to me." A moment of vulnerability flashed in Rebecca's eyes. But quickly, she returned to her usual assertive expression. "There's no problem. Just work stress." The three headed toward the elevator hole. Through the hallway window, they could see Boston's cityscape, now completely dark. "Mom's ready, so hurry back up," Rebecca suddenly said. Caroline tilted her head. "What are you talking about?" "About the will," Rebecca's voice trembled. "Didn't she say she was going to discuss it today?" "She didn't tell me anything." The elevator doors opened, and Michael emerged. His face was pale, with sweat on his forehead. "Rebecca, it's over. Let's get out of here." He grabbed his wife's arm, but she shook him off. "You two go ahead," Rebecca said, forcing brightness into her tone. "I need to go back to the car to get something I forgot." Michael looked at her in surprise. "What are you saying?" "Go." Rebecca's voice echoed down the hallway. She urged Caroline and Noah toward the elevator. "Tell Mom I'll be right back up, wait for me." Without another word, Michael hurried toward the hallway stairs. His back radiated an unusual tension. As Caroline and Noah took a few steps toward the elevator, Noah suddenly froze. His small body stiffened with tension, and the color drained from his face. "Noah." Caroline placed her hand on her son's shoulder. "What's wrong?" Still staring at the elevator doors, Noah said in an almost inaudible voice, "Mom, we absolutely cannot get on." "What?" "That elevator, we can't get on it." Noah's voice was trembling but filled with conviction. His blue eyes, full of seriousness, looked up at his mother. "Please." Caroline was speechless at her son's sincere expression. It was rare for Noah to show such fear. His intuition had proven sharp before, but this time there was an unusually strong conviction. "All right," Caroline nodded slowly. Though she didn't understand why, she decided to trust her son. Rebecca was watching them anxiously. "What are you talking about?" "We'll take the stairs," Caroline announced quietly. "Noah needs some exercise, and a little walk will do him good." Rebecca's expression transformed. "What are you saying?" "There's no time." She approached them with a frantic look. "Mom is waiting. She says there's something important to discuss." "There's no need to rush," Caroline responded calmly. "It'll only take 5 minutes to get there by stairs." "Don't be ridiculous." Rebecca's voice suddenly rose. "You need to go up right now." Caroline grew more wary of her sister's abnormal behavior. "Rebecca, calm down. What's going on?" "Nothing's going on." Rebecca almost shouted. Just. She faltered. As Rebecca grabbed Caroline's arm and tried to push her into the elevator, Noah reacted instinctively. He charged into Rebecca with all the strength his small body could muster. "Stop it!" Noah's cry echoed down the hallway. Caught off guard, Rebecca lost her balance and stumbled backward several steps. Her high heels caught on the floor, and she fell into the elevator. "Rebecca!" Caroline took a step forward to help her, when the elevator doors began to close rapidly. "No!" A scream-like cry came from Rebecca as she frantically began pressing buttons. Open! Open! Just before the doors closed completely, they caught a glimpse of Rebecca's face contorted in terror. Caroline, help! Her words were cut off as the doors closed completely. After about 2 seconds of silence, a sudden deafening sound of tearing metal rang out. The entire building shook slightly, and the emergency lights in the hallway began to flash. Mom! Noah clung to Caroline. Following the terrible metallic sound came the blaring of alarms. There was a violent impact sound, as if something had fallen from the top of the elevator, and then screams. From down the hallway, they heard Michael's footsteps as he ran up the stairs. His face was distorted with fear. What happened? He shouted, out of breath. The elevator. Caroline faltered. Rebecca is inside. The color drained from Michael's face. No way. Helen's apartment door opened, and she rushed into the hallway. What happened? I heard something like an explosion. Mom, call emergency services. Caroline cried out. There's been an accident with the elevator. Rebecca is trapped inside. Helen stood dumbfounded for a moment but quickly recovered and returned to the apartment to make the call. The building security guard came running up the hallway. Is everyone all right? We've detected an abnormality with the elevator. Caroline explained with a trembling voice as she held Noah close. My sister is inside. Noah whispered softly, Mom, I knew. I knew that elevator was going to break. Caroline pulled her son closer and gently rubbed his back. Amidst the confusion and fear, a question formed in her mind. Had Rebecca been trying to get her on that elevator? And had Michael been trying to stop her? Standing with her son as the alarm continued to ring, Caroline was frozen in place. The lobby of the condominium was suddenly filled with emergency response teams. Security guards, the building manager, and the soon-arriving firefighters gathered around the malfunctioning elevator. Everyone stand back, the fire chief commanded in a firm voice. This area is off-limits until the elevator's safety can be confirmed. Caroline held Noah close as she stood with Helen at the end of the hallway. Michael, pale-faced, leaned against the wall, seemingly unable to move. I wonder if Rebecca is all right. Helen asked in a trembling voice. Caroline embraced her mother's shoulders. I'm sure she is. The professionals are here. Even as she said this, she shuddered remembering that terrible sound. Had the elevator cable snapped? Are you Mrs. Rebecca Morris? A firefighter approached. Your wife is conscious. We're in the final stages of the rescue operation. Thank you, Helen smiled faintly. She's my daughter. About 20 minutes later, the firefighters forcibly opened the elevator doors and pulled out a dazed Rebecca. Her hair was disheveled and her clothes dusty, but there were no obvious injuries. Rebecca. Helen rushed to her daughter. However, when Rebecca saw her mother, she suddenly began screaming. That elevator. Someone tampered with it. Something was wrong. She was in a half-crazed state, trembling all over. The paramedics tried to calm her down, but Rebecca looked around warily with wide eyes. When she spotted Caroline and Noah, her eyes filled with terror. Was that elevator supposed to kill me? She gasped. No one understood what she meant. Amid the confusion, Noah whispered in Caroline's ear. Mom, I saw Rebecca breaking the elevator. Yesterday. Caroline froze at her son's words. When Thomas had brought Noah here, Noah said he had seen Rebecca doing something. Had that been her tampering with the elevator? The party was naturally cancelled. The police were called, and an investigation into the elevator accident began. There seems to have been a structural issue, one of the police officers explained to Helen. There was an abnormality in the braking system, and a rapid descent almost occurred, but a secondary safety mechanism activated and prevented the worst. However, we're investigating whether this was just an accident or if there were other factors involved. Rebecca was taken to the hospital, and while Michael said he would accompany her, he seemed oddly hesitant. He approached Caroline and said in a low voice, "You should leave early with Noah today. It's better if you're not here anymore." "What do you mean?" Caroline stared at him. Michael averted his gaze. "Just some advice. I can't stay here anymore." He hurried to the lobby and left in a taxi. It didn't seem like he was heading to the hospital. Amid the confusion, Caroline returned to Helen's room to get her belongings. The police were recording the situation in the living room, and Noah was waiting quietly on the sofa. "We'll go home soon," Caroline told her son. In the bathroom, she noticed Rebecca's bag on the sink. She must have forgotten it. As Caroline absently picked it up, a small USB drive slipped out. She picked it up and, after a moment's consideration, put it in her jacket pocket. This might be evidence of something. Normally, she wouldn't take someone else's belongings without permission, but this was an extraordinary situation. "Mom, let's go home," Noah entered the room. His expression was tired but had regained its composure. "Yes, let's go." After returning home and putting Noah to bed, Caroline placed the USB drive on the living room table. Staring at it, she struggled internally. This would be an invasion of privacy. But what if her sister had been plotting something? Taking a deep breath, she inserted the drive into her laptop. The screen displayed several PDF files and Excel sheets. She opened the first PDF. It was a detailed blueprint of the elevator's braking system, created by Michael. Caroline remembered that although he was an IT engineer, he had studied mechanical engineering earlier. The next file was an assessment of Helen's assets and inheritance plan. Someone must have hacked into Helen's law firm or obtained it from an insider. Even more terrifying, it included the contents of the new will Helen was planning. It clearly stated the trust arrangement for Caroline and Noah. When she opened the last file, Caroline's blood ran cold. It was a record of a conversation between Michael and Rebecca. Michael had probably recorded and transcribed it somehow. If only Caroline weren't around, all of Mom's assets would be ours. It was Rebecca's voice. "Stop this madness," Michael had argued. "This would be murder. If we make it look like an elevator accident, it's perfect. You have the technical skills for it. I don't want to be involved anymore. Do you think you can back out now? You're just as guilty. You helped with the plan." Caroline picked up the phone with trembling hands and contacted the police. "I found evidence," her voice was surprisingly calm. "About the elevator accident, and about the plan." The next morning, police detained Michael at the airport. He was trying to board a flight out of Boston. Rebecca was arrested shortly after. Michael confessed almost everything during questioning. They were in serious debt and had planned to eliminate Caroline to get Helen's inheritance. Michael initially provided the technical expertise to modify the elevator's braking system but ultimately tried to back out of the plan due to his conscience. However, Rebecca decided to continue with the plan alone. Ironically, she ended up falling into her own trap. She had probably come up with a strategy to panic Caroline and force her onto the elevator. Caroline and Helen were being interviewed at the police station. If she had succeeded, Helen faltered, "You and Noah would have." But she didn't succeed. Caroline held her mother's hand. "Thanks to Noah. That child might have some special power," Helen laughed weakly. "Special or not, he has keen observation skills," Caroline answered. "Yesterday, he said he saw Rebecca doing something. I didn't pay much attention, but..." A detective entered the room. "Ms. Morris, Ms. Brown," Rebecca Morris and Michael Clark have been formally charged with conspiracy. Thank you for your cooperation. As they left the police station, Thomas was waiting. He lifted Noah into his arms and said to Caroline, "I'm glad you're safe. When I noticed something was off with Michael, I feared the worst." "Thanks to you," Caroline smiled. "And most of all, thanks to Noah." From his father's arms, Noah smiled proudly yet somewhat shyly. He thought he had just noticed something strange. He hadn't fully realized that he had saved his family's lives. The detective approached Caroline and quietly said, "Remember, if you had boarded that elevator, you probably wouldn't be here now. Your son is truly special." Caroline nodded as she gazed at Noah. Though she didn't fully understand it, her son's mysterious intuition had saved her from a life-threatening danger. 6 months later, on an early summer day, Caroline was enjoying her morning coffee on the terrace of Helen's condominium. She heard Noah's energetic footsteps behind her, and he appeared with his school backpack. "Mom, I'm ready to go." Caroline gently stroked her son's head. "Good morning. Did you sleep well?" Noah nodded and gazed at the view outside the window. Since the incident, he and Caroline had moved into Helen's condominium. It was Helen's suggestion. "After that terrible incident, I can't bear to live alone anymore," she had said. In reality, everyone understood her wish to keep Caroline and Noah close. "Dad's picking me up today, right?" Noah asked. "Yes, you'll be at Dad's house this weekend," Caroline smiled. Since the incident, her relationship with Thomas had also changed. The support he showed during the emergency had created a new bond between them. They hadn't rekindled their romantic relationship, but a friendship based on deeper understanding and respect had blossomed. Above all, they prioritized creating a good environment for Noah. After breakfast, Caroline dropped Noah off at school and headed to the publishing house. Having been promoted to project manager, she now carried more responsibilities than before. The only fortune born from the tragedy was that she had rediscovered her own strength and value. Upon arriving at the office, she found an envelope on her desk. Seeing the sender's name, Caroline sighed deeply. It was from Rebecca. She slowly opened the envelope and read the letter inside. "Caroline, I'm not asking for forgiveness. That's not my right. I just want to tell you something. I was driven by jealousy. You were always Mother's favorite, and I was second best. When our financial problems became serious, Michael and I formed a foolish plan. As he claims, I didn't lead everything. He's equally guilty. Now he's trying to blame everything on me, but that's not the truth. Someday, if there's even a small place in your heart that could forgive me." Caroline put the letter in her desk drawer. Rebecca's words didn't convey genuine remorse. She was still shifting blame and wallowing in a victim mentality. Michael had received a reduced sentence in exchange for his testimony, but his contemptible attitude, trying to push all the blame onto Rebecca, didn't impress the prosecution or the judge. In the end, both received lengthy sentences. In the afternoon, Caroline finished work early and went shopping with Helen. "I'm so grateful to have you," Helen said, taking her daughter's arm. "I can't thank you enough." "Mom," Caroline said quietly. "I think I finally understand what family means. It's not just blood ties that make a family. It's the care and support for one another that creates a true family." That evening, when Thomas came to pick up Noah, Caroline invited him to dinner. The three of them around the table might have looked like an ordinary family from the outside. But they weren't a normal family. They were bound by stronger, more compassionate ties forged through trials. After dinner, while Noah was playing games, Caroline and Thomas were quietly talking on the terrace, drinking wine. "Noah's intuition is truly remarkable," Thomas said. "If he hadn't warned you to avoid the elevator that day." "I don't even want to think about it," Caroline shuddered. "His special ability, I can't explain it, but There's no need to explain, Thomas took her hand. Just be thankful. Through the window, they could see Noah laughing innocently. He might not have fully understood that he had become the family's guardian. But there was no doubt that his purity and intuition had saved the most precious lives. Caroline raised her glass and silently vowed. Whatever might happen in the future, she would protect this new form of family.